podcast here on YouTube called the Capital K Knitting Podcast. It is a joy to be with you this morning. I am in my yarn room on the morning of January 5th, and I wanted to talk about 2023 knitting goals. It's already 2023, right? I wasn't ready. The time thing is still not quite right with me, but I thought I would go through 2023 knitting goals with you, and also at the end show you just a few things that I got for Christmas, because I am not going to be able to show them on my regular podcast in the format that I normally do. So I thought I don't want to not show them. They're beautiful. Some of them are yarn, some of them are gifts my husband made for me for like my knitting practice, hobby, journey, all of that. Whatever word you use for it. It's funny when you want to call it a hobby, but that seems like less than what it is. You know, it's not really just a hobby, or maybe that's what other people's hobbies really are. It's like the thing that they think about all the time. I don't know. But anyway, wanted to share 2023 knitting goals with you. I have 5 sweater quantities of yarn in my stash already. And I'm planning on doing a extremely low buy year in 2023, which is hard because when I lived in Kentucky last year and a couple of years even before that, I had this beautiful, wonderful local yarn store called the Wooden Needle. If you're in Kentucky, it's in Trenton, Kentucky. It's very close to Fort Campbell where I lived, and it's just a beautiful yarn store, and the people there are so nice, and yeah, I miss them all the time. And I don't have anything like that here in Indiana where I live. There are other places in Indiana that are very nice, but here where I live in Indiana near Kokomo, there's not a whole lot of options. So, yeah. So anyway, my goal though is to do an extremely low buy year so that I can use all the beautiful yarn that I bought with zero regrets when I was at the Wooden Needle. And I've purchased several things online this past year, which I also don't regret at all. The yarn is beautiful, but now I just need to make time to actually use it and knit it up and make it into like the beautiful thing I want it to be. And I'm gonna start out with the sweaters because those are easier for me to get my brain around. Socks or hats or things like that, I'm just gonna make those, right? I'm just gonna make whatever I want to make with those. I already know I need to make a couple of pairs of mittens for my youngest two kids because the older two got a pair for Christmas and the younger two were like, so what I would like for mine, because they just knew they were coming. So that was very sweet. But anyway, diving into sweater goals for 2023. I've already cast one on, and I'm still trying to think through if I should, also just to get this out of the way, this scratch that's on my head, I immediately scratched myself on some chicken wire out in our dining room. The chicken wire is holding up Christmas decorations that I haven't taken down yet, and so I'm fine if you're concerned about that. I've already cast one on, and it is the Alpenglow by Andrea Mowry. I wanted to cast that on in the fall of last year, but obviously we didn't get there. So this is the Alpenglow by Andrea Mowry. It's this beautiful sweater. So up here is stranded colorwork, and then once you get to the little, like, I don't know, kind of what do I want to say, Morse code dots there, that's just mosaic knitting, so it's way easier. And then I think the bottom is a cartridge rib, which I've never done before and I'm excited to do. But I did the top. I haven't put the neckline or the collar on. I guess this is technically the neckline, I don't know. I haven't put the collar on yet, and I need to move it to a bigger cord too. But it's gonna look like that. Isn't that so pretty? Oh my goodness, I'm already so excited about it. So this is a commercially spun yarn but it's a woolen spun yarn, and I got it from Liz Co Knits, and I'm just really excited to use it again. This is the last skein I have of it, so I won't be using all of it in this project, but I do want to use it because it's kind of special to me. And then this is Magpie Fibers Plume. So it's 75% cashmere and 25% silk, and it's in the colorway Evil Beaver, which I just thought was hilarious. I have never spent so much on a 25 gram skein of yarn, but it is, I don't think I can oversell it. It is so nice. And I'm actually really thankful that in this pattern there are places where you exclusively work with this yarn. I have yarn falling all over because I have it all over my lap. I was going to next put on the neckline for it once I kind of finished with this one and got to the main yarn there. But it's taking me a long time. I have a job now. I didn't have one. I was a stay-at-home mom, which takes up a lot of time, right? It just does. Kids need a lot of things. However, I was able to kind of train my kids in the last several years that if they wanted to watch a show or if they wanted to play or if we were doing school, that I would just be working on stuff, right? And just not to tear things out. So I don't really have that kind of crafting time anymore, which is okay. It's okay. It's, I think, more realistic. This is the main color that I'm going to use. This is Holstgarn in the colorway Tundra, and it looks thin. Like, it is not a sport weight yarn when you knit it up, but it blooms significantly. So I think that'll actually work out really well. And then I have Spin Cycle in my stash, but I wanted to use it for something else. So I'm using this Rainbow Beach in the colorway 104, and you'll see, maybe it's easier to see like that way. There's like out here, it's pretty dark, see? And then in here, it's pretty light. There are places where it's almost black. So if you look at the yarn, there's like different places, right, of where it changes colors. It's just a whole marled effect, and I think that'll do a similar thing that the Spin Cycle yarn does for that. So that is sweater number 1. I'm still trying to convince myself that I would get them done more quickly if I didn't cast them all on at the same time. But I want to. So, yeah. So I'm still thinking about that. The next thing that I'm going to cast on is the Great Gingham Raglan by Jessie Made Designs. I really like that pattern. I think it looks so fun. And so what I'm going to use as my main color is this Ochre Brown by Knitting for Olive. I got this in a D-Stash sale, and I really want to use it. I've just heard so much about Knitting for Olive yarn, and I think it'd be really nice. And if I have enough of the cashmere left, I think I'll do the collars and the neckline in, like, hold it with this. I think that would be just smashing. And then this is these are the 3 that I have. This one is called Idle Nights. And then I have this one called the Dead Reckoning. And then this one is, I think this one is the Meadows. You can see all those different colors in there. So that one will be next. It's a bottom-up sweater, and I've never done a bottom-up sweater before. I want to try something new for this year with that. I think that would be really fun to do. I think that would be really great. The next one that I'm thinking of casting on is a ranunculus. Now, I was watching a Lovely Yarn podcast, and she made a ranunculus kind of like, I don't know, in the fall. And she was like, yeah, I don't really get the hype about a lot of patterns. In fact, when there is, like, when it feels like everyone's knitting it, I don't actually want to do that. And I feel very similar to that. And then she said, and then I thought, if I knit it, and if I start knitting it and I don't like it, I don't have to make it. And I feel the same way. So I thought, you know what, let me try it. I don't have any shall I say, like, cooler sweaters. All of mine are made out of wool or wool and alpaca. And so this is a worsted cotton yarn. It is by Juniper Moon in the Cumulus. It's Israeli Mako cotton, and it has just a touch of nylon in it. It says, so the percentages are, oh, I don't know, does it say? Yeah, so 94% cotton, 6% nylon. So yeah, that's not very much. It's in the colorway Stone, and I just think this blue-gray is just so pretty. And I've had it in my stash for the longest time. I was thinking of making a sweater for my kiddos out of it, but I'm probably going to make it for myself. I don't have any cotton sweaters. I think it'll be a real learning experience for me to use a plant fiber that's not meant for dishcloths. My first sweaters that I made for my kids, I made out of dishcloth cotton, and I didn't realize that every yarn was not created equal, like that everything made of cotton doesn't feel the same, and that everything made of wool doesn't feel the same. There are, you know, non-superwash wools that I've found that are way softer than a superwash wool, and then there are some that have been so rustic. You know, it really is just a great idea if you can feel it, or if you know, if you already know how it feels, to, yeah, just be aware of that, because not all yarn is created equal. So, which is fine. That's good. We need hardy yarns for hardy jobs, and we need soft ones for soft jobs. So that's a good thing. Okay. Then I have this pretty bowl. I have this Barocco yarn, and it's a super bulky yarn. And so I got it originally to knit a sweater knit along with my friends in Kentucky, not knowing I would be moving before that knit along was supposed to be happening. So I planned on making it anyway with them while I was up here, but in the midst of moving and all of that, I totally missed the mark and didn't do that at all. Where's my book? It's right here. Okay. So this is an extra bulky yarns, and the pattern that I want to knit it with is let me see here. Okay, so yeah, the sample that she knit was 76 yards per 100 grams. And these are 109 yards per 100 grams, which is interesting because, okay, so this is the Allay jacket. Right here. It's by Brandy Cheyenne Harper. She has this whole book called Knitting for Radical Self-Care, A Modern Guide. And I really like her. I just like the whole thing. Like, it's a cool coffee table book, even if you're not going to knit a lot of the things in it. It's just a whole mood. The whole thing is great. But I think the Allay jacket looks really cool. And you can see here, there's just this detail here on the front too that looks really good. I really like it a lot. So I'm not sure if I will be swatching a lot. It doesn't look super fitted. I should probably swatch for it though, because I've never knit anything on this big of a weight of yarn, and I have never done any of Brandy Cheyenne Harper's patterns. I've done an Andrea Mallory pattern before, so I'm more familiar with how my gauge is different than hers. I have done just different designers. And when you've done them a couple of times, you can be like, oh, okay, I probably need to size down or whatever. The great knitters will swatch every time because they will realize that their knitting gauge could change. But I don't do that. I'm not the greatest knitter. Let's just say that. Let's say that. Okay, and the last sweater quantity of yarn that I have is this undyed Stroll fingering weight yarn. It is from Knit Picks. I also got this in a D-stash sale from a favorite dyer of mine who's not dyeing anymore. I have enough of this to make a sweater, really any kind of sweater that I want, but I have no idea if I would want a bare yarn sweater, like a cream sweater in a house with 4 children. I just don't know if that's something I want in my life. I think it would be great. I think it would be beautiful, but I don't know if I would wear it. And that's kind of the thing that is like weighing on my mind, is if I would wear it. And if I'm not going to wear it, then I'm not going to make it. But this is actually wound up so that it's easy to dye. You just put your little things through there so that you can dye it. So I've been thinking about dyeing these with something, because that would be really cool too, to just have yarn that I dyed myself and then made into a sweater myself. So I'm still thinking about that. If you have done that, or if you are a dyer, and you have any advice for me about, like, just not necessarily wanting to get into dyeing, but like an easy way to do a one pot thing, basically, that would be amazing. I am thinking about reviewing some of the things that I saw on excuse me, that I saw on the Bakery Bears My Favorite Colorways episodes. I'm a patron of their podcast, and so they have this great backlog of like videos that you can go back through, and yeah, it's also really fun to watch their walking the wall stuff. Anyway, before I turn into a commercial for the Bakery Bears, which I totally would because they're great, we'll move on to the next thing. After sweater quantities, the next thing that I want to focus on, or in the midst of focusing on that, basically, I really want to cast on the yarns that are special to me. I have, oh wait, do I only have 3 of those? No. I just found another sweater quantity that I forgot that I had. See, this is part of it, right? How can you have a sweater quantity of yarn that you've lost track of? I say to myself in judgment. It's possible. It's fine. Okay, so this is shepherd's wool, which I've made 2 sweaters out of before. I've made it in the berries colorway, and I've made it in this denim colorway. And it's very soft, and it's very nice to work with, and I like it a lot. And I have been thinking about making this into just a basic, oh, look at that color. I just like it so much. You can see that I've had this wound up because I want to use it. I have been thinking about casting this on to be part of Casey from Young Folk Knits podcast, her bougie sweatshirt knit along. I think that would be really great. Because this is more of like a sweater, like it's a basic sweater thing, and I really like it, but it's a cropped version, and so I think I'd really enjoy a sweater version of something that was longer. Oh my goodness, this is beautiful. This is the colorway Blue Spruce. I need to have this on my needles. Wow, that's really great. Okay, so the next thing that I want to focus on is putting the yarn that I love onto my needles. Picking a pattern that would fit the yarn that I just think is scrumptious and using it. So I have a couple of things in that category. First and most precious to me is this hand spun from my sister. I do not I don't spin. I'd like to someday. I think that would be really cool. That is probably the next step in my fiber journey. But she gave me over 100 grams of this beautiful hand spun. Look at that. Oh my gosh. It's just really special to me. And so I'd really like to make it into something. I've thought about putting it in the yoke of a sweater or something like that, so that it would shine. I really am into garment making, so I keep thinking about that. Yeah, so I've just been mulling that over. If you have a suggestion for a pattern that you think would be great for that, if you're a spinner or if you're someone who works with hand spun pretty often, I would love to hear your suggestions. Comment below for sure. And then this is just the littlest bit of hand spun from Connor Prairie. I went there and I bought some of this so that I could make some mitts for my sister. She works there as a historical interpreter, and so they can only wear things that are like historically accurate to the time. So I bought this there so that it would be accurate for her, like it was made there and then it was knit up, you know, it in a historical recipe. It's not a pattern, it's like 4 sentences, but knit up for that. And then because it was getting colder and she had like these commissions she was doing for people that she worked with because it was getting colder and she didn't really have time to knit for herself. But I have this left over and I think this is enough for, like, you know, cuffs on a sweater maybe. I don't know. So I've been trying to think of how I can incorporate this into my projects, and I'm gonna keep thinking about it. The next thing that I really want to put on my needles is this. It's a Corriedale, 50/50 Corriedale British mohair fingering weight, and this was dyed with avocado, and the colorway is shroom, so it's like this cool pearly color, and I like it so much. She gifted this to me. Kelsey of Knitting Nakabi gifted this to me, and I want to use it all. I've used snippets of it in different projects, like my daughter's mittens for Christmas as like the white of the fox face on her mittens and things, but I think I'd like to incorporate it as like a fuzzier part of some color work or something. Or maybe the second color of a brioche pattern, maybe in a hat or something. I keep thinking about that. So those are the projects that I have in mind for 2023. To keep it as a low buy year, I am going to be following kind of an order of operations to see what I have on hand and what I want to make. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to see what yarn I have already wound. So this is just an entire skein of yarn that I have already wound that I've tried to use probably 3 times for different projects and pulled it out because I didn't want to use it for those. So, but I really like it, and I think it would make a really cool looking musselburg, especially with my white hair. So, yeah, I have this wound up. I've had it wound up for a while, and I don't want cakes of yarn to just be sitting there not being used. So yeah, I'm going to be doing that. I have a couple of sock plans, but really they're just going to be using yarn that I already have wound up that I wanted to use in the first place. And then I'm going to be looking at what I have in my stash. So skeins that aren't necessarily wound, but that I can use for different projects. I have 5, right? Did I say 5? I have 6 sweater quantities of yarn, and honestly that might take me the whole year to do. I made 7 sweaters this year, and it was lovely, but by the time summer hit, my sweater mojo was kind of done. So I'm taking advantage of this deep winter time to like do the sweaters, right? And I'm not sure if casting on as many sweaters as I did last year served me well, because then I was like, well, I have to finish them. I started them, you know, or if it would have been better for me to give myself a little more space with that. I was definitely following my joy last year, but it did end up giving me a little bit of maker anxiety, where I was like, I just don't want to have to work on this anymore, but I feel like I have to get it done and all of that stuff, which I'm still working through. And I know some people have a really good handle on it. They're like, I'm going to cast on whatever I want. I'm going to work on whatever I want, whenever I want. And that's however it's going to be. And I'm like, that sounds amazing. Also, I don't know that I would ever finish anything if I did that. And I do want the finished things. I do want them. So, yeah. So having 6 sweater quantities of yarn is going to keep me busy this year for sure. And then also, I know that I'm going to want to participate in summer sock camp again this year. I ended up this year with having for myself 4 pairs of socks, which I know might sound silly to the rest of you, but I gift a lot of socks, and so I wanted to have more of my own this year. And so I'm going to be doing that, because I probably am going to be gifting some socks, but I want to be participating in summer sock camp to just be able to like crank out some socks. I think that'd be, not literally, I don't have a sock knitting machine, but you know, humanly crank out some socks. And then if I get to the end of my sweater quantities and I'm kind of done with socks and I'm kind of done with hats, but I still want to cast on some sweaters, I know that I would have enough to make like some colorwork sweaters and things like that. I have enough yarn that I wouldn't have a sweater's quantity of the same color, but I would have a sweater's quantity of yarn that I could use. So like Marie Wallen's Lovage sweater is beautiful and like in the best sense of the word busy enough that it wouldn't take, you know, a ton of yardage from each color to make that sweater. So diving into projects like that, so that I can approach it is so weird to say 2024, so that I can approach 2024 with all the possibilities. Now there's one caveat that I'm putting into this low buy year, and that is that if I should make it to Rhinebeck, which is a dream of mine to be able to go, it's in New York, and so that's a lot. Maybe I would be able to like, you know, talk to some knitters I know and we could ride together or something and go. But it's just a lot. It's an expense that I can't really justify at this point in my life. But I'm hoping that by the time it comes around, I will be able to. And if I can, then I'm definitely going to be buying some stuff there. Like, I'm not going to tell myself that I'm not allowed to buy anything at Rhinebeck. It might be a once-in-a-lifetime thing for me to be able to go. And so I wouldn't want to be telling myself, well, oh, you can do this next year. You can do this next year, when I don't know if I'll be able to go next year. So, yeah, there's that. There's that caveat to that. So I hope that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, and now I'm going to show you some really pretty yarn and some really pretty things that my husband gave me. So first of all, I got these gorgeous, my husband is a woodworker, and he gave me these gorgeous Christmas presents. And I gave him a knitted hat this year, so we both used our skills to help each other, you know. First, he made me this darning mushroom. It's not round. We don't have a lathe, and so he made it as good for heels as he could, and I think it's wonderful. And he made it out of, I think he made it out of oak and cedar, and so it should last me forever. And the more I use it, just the more smooth it's gonna be. It's perfect. I love it so much. And I kind of sprung it on him as an idea for me really close to Christmas, I was like, by the way, these are a couple of things that I would really like for Christmas if you thought you could make them. Thank you. And he did. To his credit, he was really nice about it. This is a bookmark. He made it for me for, I keep talking about how much I'd like to do more reading during the year. And he was like, I think maybe you just don't have enough bookmarks. And I don't. It's true. So he made me this little bookmark to put in my books. And then the kind of coup de grace that he made for me is this cedar box. So it's beautiful. It's all made out of cedar that he had in his shop. So there's like a little sparkly thing in here that I must have. So, isn't it beautiful? I love it. And I've wanted to have a cedar box for like my box of socks or whatever. He also like did this on all the sides so that I'd be able to take it off really easily. So it's my beautiful cedar box, and I'm really excited to fill it up with stuff that I make. I have only 4 pairs of socks right now, but I think it will be great to just keep, you know, wool socks in there. I have several wool socks that I've made for my kids, and I've had them in kind of a little basket. So I've thought about making it like the family box of socks for now, but I might just keep it only for myself to keep my own stuff in there and keep it safe from moths. Okay, and one of the things, this is a yarn heavy moment here, because I received my last Knitting Nakabi Herbology mystery box in December, and then I also had my New Year's countdown box from Knitting Nakabi that I was opening, you know, every day, counting down to New Year's. So this is from the Spearmint Herbology box. This is, I always love these little cards. My kids kept pulling them down from the wall, so I'm actually going to keep them in here in my yarn room now that I have it set up. And yeah, that way they're safe. So this has this is a really low caffeine tea that she made with the spearmint, rosemary, lemon balm, linden, eucalyptus, and do you say eleuthero root? And I love the way she does the directions on the front. It's just very accessible. It's very nice. Pictographs going on there. And then this is a soap bar. I love me some natural soaps. And it's got peppermint and Dead Sea salt in it. Isn't that nice? That's lovely. And then of course she has the naturally dyed yarn. So this was dyed with spearmint. And the colorway is Buttercup. So I signed up for the DK weight yarn, and I'm really happy with that choice, because that means that I will probably be making a Knitting Nakabi Herbology sweater at some point. It might even just be stripes or something. I think it would, and it still smells like spearmint. It's really nice. Oh, it's really nice. Yeah, so then that was the end of the 2022 mystery herbology mystery boxes. She also did one that was like a mythological creatures mystery one, and those were beautiful. And then this year she's doing the herbology one again, but the other one is like fantasy worlds, which I think would be really cool. And I'm almost, yeah, I'm not sure if I can stay away from the fantasy worlds ones, as I'm already talking about buying things that I shouldn't be buying, right? So with the New Year's countdown box, the theme was Willy Wonka. And Willy Wonka is just such a weird movie to me. I think, like, as an adult watching it, I'm like, what is happening? And so it's obviously just a fantasy nonfiction situation, right? Or fiction situation, right? And but so much of it to me is just so absurd. But I do really love absurdity in the world of comedy, so yeah. But these yarns are very beautiful. This one is called Slugworth, which if you've seen the movie, you know who that is. And this one is called Oompa Loompa. And this one is called Golden Ticket, of course. If you know Kelsey's yarns, she already has this color called Golden Ticket. And I should have known it would be in the thing. I was still surprised though. Isn't that funny? And then the next one, I believe the next one was called Wonka Bar. It's this really pale pink. It's really pretty. And then this one is called Snozberries. The snozberries taste like snozberries. And then this is Willy Wonka, of course, because of his purple hat. And then the last one was called Pure Imagination. It's this beautiful, cool, light green, very pretty. And, oh, I didn't share, this was at the bottom. There was also a chocolate mint chapstick that came with the spearmint box. So my kids have already claimed some of these yarns. My son has asked me to make mittens for him out of this. And then my daughter has asked for me to make her mittens out of this. So I'm going to be casting these on as well for 2023, just very early here, so that I can get their little Christmas presents done. They've been very patient and they're very knit-worthy people. So mittens will be on the very near horizon for me. They don't take very long to knit up at all. They have little hands, so it's not a big deal. But I have so many other things that I want to cast onto that my brain is just having the hardest time focusing on, you know, kind of having a list rather than just casting everything on. And then I know I have it, then I know I did it, and I can just work on whatever I'm going to work on there. Yeah, so if you have any pattern suggestions for me, as you can see, I've got, you know, lots of beautiful skeins, beautiful skeins of yarn. I have a lot of DK weight yarn and quite a bit of worsted weight, and then I've got a lot of fingering weight yarn too. So if you just have a pattern that you've knit that you recently love, or if there's something on your list for 2023 knitting goals that you want to share, I would love to hear about it. Also, if you made it to the end of this video, just leave me a little emoji, and I love seeing who makes it all the way through. I wish you all the luck and all the determination in your 2023 knitting goals, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
Don't you wanna get cozy with me? We'll dive into a Ravelry.